All right, everybody, welcome to Deprogram Podcast. My guest is in the green room. She'll be up in a moment. So I'm going to I'm going to do a little intro spiel that gives people time to come into the room. I've been really busy, so I didn't announce this. I should have been announcing this a couple of days ago, but I've been busy training, getting a new position. But this is going to be an awesome rendition of Spooktober, something, a little dark for your Friday night. We're talking about vampire culture, vampire lifestyle, and, vampires in the culture. My guest is Selene. I'm going to bring her in a couple of minutes, but before I do, remember, if you are watching this on replay or you're here right now live, give Anne a thumbs up. And remember to subscribe on whatever platform you are watching it on. We are currently streaming to YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, DLive, and Twitter. That's the other one. So whatever your preferred platform, subscribe. I suggest YouTube because most of the people that show up and do the live chat and there's a lot of interaction, it's usually on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe on the YouTube channel and give this video a thumbs up and leave a happy, nice comment. In November, there's going to be a lot of changes happening here. Cal Corf is going to be coming on to be like a regular co-host with me. We'll probably do a weekly show where we talk about different things. Now, Cal and I have very different styles, obviously very different flavors, so it'll be a nice balance. And whenever that is coming, you'll know, because I'll announce and I'll do all the changes and new website, and title's probably going to change, but that's going to be happening. So I'm going to have a co-host, which I think will make it more interesting, more dynamic show. But right now, the most important thing is I have Selene, and I'm going to bring her in here, and we're going to talk all about vampires and vampire culture. Welcome to the show, Anne.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
All right. That's excellent. If there is any sound problems, anyone, let us know. Give us a shout out and let us know that all the sound is going on. We got a few people coming into the room. I appreciate that. Let's do a little intro. Let's talk about yourself, who you are, and then get into why vampires.
All right. So I am known as Lady Anne. I have a podcast called The Caravan Library of Lore. I've been on air since 2017, and you can find me, just Google the name Caravan Library of Lore. You can find me on YouTube, same as Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Basically, I cover, all kinds of topics. We've talked about black-eyed kids. We've talked about Sasquatch and aliens and UFOs and ghosts, and I'm a lifelong experiencer myself. So I've shared a lot of my stories on the podcast as well. I am also the owner of KPNL Radio. So KPNL is a paranormal podcast network that plays paranormal podcasts after 5 p.m. and music 7 days a week. We carry shows like Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott and Into the Fray Radio with Shannon LeGros. And as for the vampire stuff, I have been drawn to the world of vampires since I was very young. You watch the movies and see the different books, and you see them in different little cartoons and stuff like that. And I loved just the story of them. And I always found them to be romantic. And who doesn't want to be young and live forever,
Yes.
So
that's probably what allured me to vampires. I mean, vampires have always been there. Like the Count from Sesame Street. Everybody knows Bela Lugosi, but I think it's that when I was a teenager, which was in the 90s, it would have been Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. That was the first big one that really, really allured me. Like some of our audience, it might have been Dark Shadows, the TV show, or Hammer Horror, but for me, it was Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, which made me go and find the other stuff, the older stuff that was out of my touch. Do you have like a movie? Do you have something that pulled you in and made you go explore it more?
Yeah, that would be Interview with a Vampire for me. I loved that film. I loved that, it was just different. and it wasn't your regular the Dracula and the Nosferatu and everything. It was different because I love how he met with the writer, and I've always had a special place for writing in my heart, so to see him interview him, and it's just, I mean, I can't even pinpoint it all. I just love so much about the film.
Yes, and that was actually another one of my favorites because I believe the movie came out in '93. So we had
Mhm.
like, so I was big on that one, and then all my friends got into the the books from the movie, and we all went and seen the
Mhm.
movie. So that, and I love how what Anne Rice did with that is that it explored relationships that were taboo.
Right.
Like between Lestat and Louis.
Louis, yeah.
It's sort of, and it used the vampire to do it. So, like, the vampire, again, as a romantic figure, the vampire as a plague figure, it changes. And
Mhm.
she used this figure to explore things that might have been more taboo. And you could
Right.
do that with the vampire.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. And I mean, everything about it was beautiful too. I mean, the clothes that they wore, the colors, the locations, everything was just beautiful.
And I remember at the time, it was high security. Like, they kept it big under wraps. And
Mhm.
Anne Rice didn't want Tom Cruise to be Lestat. She was like adamant. She had it in mind. What was that other actor? Rutger Hauer. And she was adamant that he
Mm.
wasn't going to be good. And of course, he turned out to be amazing. And she apologized to him. But it was highly, like, I remember it was high sensation. It was kept under wraps. They were trying not to let anybody see at the time. It was like the big buzz, just like, like some Star
Mm.
Wars or some movie would be today.
Right.
It was big, and I don't know, it's amazing. It just has that creepy Louisiana kind of feel and the French
Mhm.
Creole, and I don't know,
Oh, yeah.
it's amazing. Like, I can
Yeah.
definitely see why it pulled you in.
Mhm. Oh, man, there was one point where he just turns and he talks about how he wakes up and he can see for the first time with his vampire eyes. And just, I mean, imagining that, especially with me as a writer and really putting myself in that moment, what would it be like? What would it be like to actually be able to do this, to turn into a vampire and to see the world in a different way that you've never seen it? Oh, I lost your audio.
There, okay, there we go. I was saying it's interesting that it was a point of lure for you, that the seeing with different eyes. So it obviously opened up, it was actually providing that for you, seeing things differently.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was so poetic, because there's a lot of things that we do miss in our world. There's a lot of magic that goes unnoticed.
Yeah, and creativity and artistry. And
Mhm.
what's really interesting about that one is Interview with the Vampire was written out of Anne Rice's grief of losing her daughter.
Mm. See, I wasn't
Yeah.
aware of that.
Yeah,
Wow.
she had a daughter, and she had some sort of leukemia, and they weren't and her
Mm.
daughter passed away from it, and she was suffering from alcoholism, and she went in the back and she just pounded away. Her husband, Stan Rice, he was a poet. He was the famous one, the literature one. She was kind of seen as his wifey wife. And she went in the room and she just worked on this all day, and she pounded out the book, Interview with the Vampire, out of her grief.
Mhm.
And that's how she was dealing with her daughter's death. So
Right,
it's just, it's sort of birthed this thing for her. So it's interesting. I don't know. I think
right.
all those things kind of tie together. it's,
No, I
I didn't know.
agree.
Yeah. I didn't know that you weren't aware of that, but yeah, it was, if you ever get a chance to go type up a biography on Anne Rice, I'm sure it will
Mhm.
be in that, where she talks about the death of her daughter. I can't remember his daughter's name, but and then she had her son later, but it was tragedy for her that bring
Right,
her greatest work of art, unfortunately, but that's how it goes
right.
sometimes.
It is. It does do that. I always reference the moonflower. There's a lot of moonflower moments or moonflower people, and the moonflower represents being able to blossom in times of darkness. And if we can take our depressions and our grief and our hurt and turn it into something beautiful that then can touch other people's lives and inspire other people, that's magical and that's a beautiful thing.
And I was gonna ask you about like because you say that's your lure, and did
Mhm.
you get like was it just started by reading and watching movies, the vampire, and then you decided it was just a slow transition to wanting to have that be your lifestyle?
Well, I mean, yeah, it started off with the movies, of course, and then, gosh, when we first had a home computer, back in the days of AOL and stuff, and I found myself in the in those old, the AOL chat rooms and everything. There was a man that I ended up speaking with who was part of this, vampire world, vampire culture, and he actually had fangs. I had never heard about anything like this before, and I was just like, "Really? Something like that actually exists?" And, gosh, we talked for a while, and then one day he just disappeared and I never spoke with him again. But I never forgot. I never forgot speaking to him and how it felt and how I was just like, "Man, I really wanna find this. I wanna be a part of this." And, so then fast forward to, gosh, I mean, I even asked different dentists that I went to, "Hey, can you make, fangs or anything like that?" And, everybody looked at me like I was nuts, of course. And then when, COVID hit, I've been doing the podcasting thing and I was listening to other people's shows and Varla Ventura was a guest on Spaced Out Radio and she had mentioned Father Sebastian. So I decided, well, I'll look up this person and see who he is and what he's about. And I found out that he was a master fangsmith and he had written several books, one on mysteries of Paris and the Black Veils. And so I looked through his website and I also found out that he was doing at that time mail order fangs. And I was just on cloud 9 because I was like, "What? Like, I can finally have fangs? Like, this can be a thing?" And, so gosh,
How does that happen? Like, doesn't he have to take an impression? Does he have to take an impression of your jaw, like, and then you send it to him?
yeah. Yeah, so there's, like, this moldable, it's like a putty that you mix together and you put it in this, tray, and then you bite down with it, and he does, like, a telefanging appointment with you, and, you hold it in there for a little while, and then you can show it on the camera, and he can tell if it's, good or not, and you can do multiple impressions if the first one, didn't turn out right. And then you mail it in, and then he was able to create the fangs from that mold, and then you get them back in the mail. So
That's very clever. That's very
yeah.
clever. We didn't have things like this when I was young. We
Right.
nothing like when I was young. I mean, this is so amazing that we have all this streaming and access to stuff because I used to have to date. I lived in a small town. It was the
Mhm.
90s. I used to have to go to some store and go through their catalog and order it
Right.
on VHS and then
Yeah.
hope to God that it would come from Europe or it was a European film or and I used to
Uh-huh.
have to surf through bookstores. I spent like hours. Now you can just type it in Google or stream it on Tubi or buy it on Apple
Mhm. Mhm.
TV. It's so much easier to access a lot of the content. It's just amazing. And now, I mean, you can just order the fangs and do that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, it's
is it affordable? Like, is it reasonable price?
yeah, I mean, I think so. If anybody's interested, you can go to it's called vamporium.shop, and then you can go over to the section that says fangs, and there's actually different ones that you can do. So I have the Lilith ones, but then you can do them to where they're set further back in your mouth more, um, so yeah, definitely check out vamporium.shop if you're interested. certain things.
Wow, that's cool. So it's kind of like you can get it to almost like the vampire film
Mhm.
that you like. Because I
Yeah.
know that some of them come with the 2 teeth down, some of them you have the 4 teeth in, some of them curve.
Yes.
It depends on the creativity of the film and the
Mhm.
costume and the makeup director. So,
Exactly.
is there any other film, like, besides, Interview with a Vampire that was impactful, or was that the sole one and then you just explored outside of that?
That was really where I got my start. As soon as I saw
Mhm,
that one, and then after that, of course, you see the other ones, and I love Nosferatu because I love, the classics,
mhm.
um, and then, it's kind of funny because my sister. So, we've always had the wolf has been our animal totem that has seemed to be passed down through our maternal line. So, growing up, she was super into wolves. I mean, I was too, but she loved werewolves. And so, there's that rivalry a little bit where she super likes werewolves and I like vampires and and so, there was that as well, which was really funny.
It sounds like Twilight. Because they have the werewolves and the vampires.
Right.
It's like, yeah, no sparkling though. That's, I mean,
No.
I can, that that's a phenomenon I don't necessarily get. Like, I don't get with the Twilight thing, except
Mhm.
it just, I don't know. It's not my thing, but I kind of get it. But I'm just like, nah, 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 nah.
It's one of those things where, gosh, so many of us view things in many different ways. We can dream up worlds, and I think that the way that she wanted to portray it, the way that
Mhm.
they wanted to do it, I think that they did good for portraying their personal story, their version of it all, and so I can appreciate that for that.
Yes, it's true. I guess I'm just old fashioned, like, because I come from art and I love Art Nouveau and
Mm.
I don't and I love
Mhm.
that period of art and Victoriana, the Bram Stoker's Dracula and even farther back where because
Right.
I've done a little research and half of my heritage is like that kind of Eastern European, and
Mm.
you understand where it came from, that it was not a nice figure. It was a corpse
Right.
figure. So there was, for me,
Mhm.
there has to be this macabre sort of graveyard kind of element to it.
Yeah.
And once
Yes.
the sparkles are there, it's just out of somewhere where I'm interested in. And I'm like, it's for somebody else.
Right, right. No, it's true. I agree with you there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the history behind it is important for me. So to me, it's too sterile, I guess is what I mean.
Right.
Like it just doesn't speak the
Yeah.
same way. And I mean, your background tells me that you have a similar attach, like it's very gothic,
Yes.
it's
Yes,
fantastic.
no, I do love the old, the Victorian, the funeral parlor, the more gothic. I mean, it is a romance that we just don't have anymore.
It's true. And everything's so modern and
Mhm.
cold and techy and stuff. I
Yeah,
always long to have like
disconnected.
a Victorian house or an
Yes.
older house, and
Oh.
I know it's probably unlikely unless I win the lottery, but and they're
Right.
becoming so scarce, at least in North
They
America.
are. Mhm.
Yeah,
I
to get
agree.
them it would cost a fortune, but at least we
Mhm.
can sort of recreate it.
Right.
Or live through it in movies, yeah. So if
Mhm.
anybody has any questions or conversations about that to Anne about vampire lifestyle, let me know. Pop it up. I'll pop it up for her. Now, is it for you? Because I've read about different people doing vampire lifestyles. Is it for you just an aesthetic, or does it go beyond that, or is it just a looks only thing? Like you're like what I mean is you're like there's some people who actually think that they need blood or want blood.
Oh,
Does that
right.
way pass the boundary for you?
Yeah, so I'm definitely so the people that are your blood drinkers and everything, those the name with that is a sanguine, and that I am
Mhm.
not. I look at it as a there's a spiritual side to it. So, for me, okay, so going back to when I was 15, I started attending a healing group and I learned how to do energy healing, and I actually got my Reiki mastery in 2011. So with vampirism, there are humans that just kind of have a higher need for that that spiritual energy, the life force and everything. So when you can have that energy and you take that in, then you can do things such as Reiki a lot easier.
Okay. So like this like you say someone who's like a sanguine could do Reiki easier because they're having that transference?
No, let's see.
No, okay.
Because they
I misunderstood it. Yeah, I wanted to get it clear. I
sorry.
obviously. No, it's okay. It's okay.
So sanguines, they're your blood drinkers, and I haven't researched them. I'm not really sure why they do what they do. But for me, being more of an energetic vampire, I can take in energy and then I can use that energy
Okay.
to raise my
Right.
vibration, my spirituality, and then be able to then, practice Reiki and healing on others.
Right. So you don't need that form. You can just do it in a
Right.
more spiritual way. You don't need to have that because well, for some people there it is a psychosis where they feel they don't even think that they're a vampire. They just feel like they need to have blood. So
Right.
and there are some physical things where people will crave steak and blood and stuff where they have,
Mhm.
deficiencies as well. So, you never know what's going on. But
True.
yeah. So no, I got it now. That I was I want it to be clear because I was getting something muddled in my head. So
All
thanks
good,
for
all
clearing
good.
that. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
well, I was reading about that and I thought, God,
Mhm.
I could see that being like when I was young, uh, HIV and AIDS came out and there was no cure,
Right.
there was no nothing. Like it was like a death sentence and people flipped out about vampire stuff. Like, and so the
Right.
vampire also started to become a metaphor for that in some
Oh.
films and it started to serve as this like this lesson about what happens when you exchange blood and there was all this
Mm.
confusion and misunderstanding about HIV
Right.
and there wasn't enough research on it and it was it stepped in there for a while as that too. So and now
Right.
they know so much more about it and people can live with it.
Right.
It's
Right.
very different. And so it's like yeah, it's interesting how it takes on the different needs of the culture, I guess, at the time.
Right.
I'm just
Yeah, no,
looking to
that's
make sure we
true.
don't have any questions.
Well, hello
um,
everyone in the chat.
yeah. If you got have you because you talk about the romantic vampire, and
Mhm.
one of the first romantic vampires that I think in film, anyways, is
Mhm.
Dark Shadows. Do you watch Dark Shadows, the TV show?
No. No, I haven't.
Okay. Okay.
Being a bad vampire
It's
here.
okay. It's well, it was done in the 60s and it's
Mhm.
very it has this like it was this soap opera, right? It was like a
Mm.
low key, it was doing terrible. The ratings sucked. And
Oh, wow.
they started to put paranormal stuff in with it. It was like they have this
Mm.
manor, this governess goes to a manor and the family Collins family owns it and they're a wealthy family and the
Mhm.
ratings were doing bad. So they decided to start putting ghostly stuff in it and they saw that it peaked up the ratings. And so
Mm.
they were going to get canceled if the ratings didn't come up. So they thought, let's just go with it. And they decided they were going to bring this vampire character in that was
Oh.
just going to be there for a little bit and
Mhm.
they'd kill him off. And so they were looking for an actor and they found this Shakespearean actor named Jonathan Frid. And they bring him in
Mm.
as this vampire called Barnabas Collins and their ratings went through the roof. It saved he
Not
literally
surprised.
saved the show. He was like Shakespeare vampire. He was like he
Wow.
had that Shakespearean prose and everything about him. He saved the show, and it went on to run for 6 years, and
Oh, wow.
really Shakespearean stage feel to it, but it was a soap opera, and it ran, and the kids would race home after school trying to get their Barnabas fix. And he
Oh,
was one
wow.
of the first empathetic vampires. It's on Tubi. If you're ever bored one day and you want a soap opera, but you want it vampire style, Dark Shadows,
Thank you.
and it's free
Yeah,
on
I'll have to check
Tubi.
it out.
The vampire saved the show. That's why I was going to
Wow.
ask you, because it's not something that a lot of people today necessarily know about, but it was a
Right.
huge show. It was a phenomenon in the 60s, and it has a little cult following, considering the show's about cults. So I wanted to mention it because I'm pretty sure
Nice.
there's Dark Shadow fans in the chat room. We got Matthew says, "Hi Anne, very interesting to hear your journey into this subject."
Oh,
And
awesome.
Matthew was on
Thank you.
about werewolves. We
Oh,
also
very
have
cool.
All Around Arbiter, Lady Anne, you are a fascinating person, and I will give your podcast a go.
Thank
That's
you.
fantastic. What, Kel, that's my boyfriend. He's here. He wants to know what you think of people who believe that vampires really exist and live their lives as if they really were a vampire.
You know, I was asked this earlier today. I was asked if I thought that real, movie book vampires existed. Number one. And, of course, I don't believe that. Uh, would it be cool if they did? I mean, sure, because to be young and to be able to live forever and then gosh, I mean, think about traveling. You can go anywhere in the world and spend however much time that you would want and wherever. Um the people that really believe that they are, I don't know. I can't really speak to that because I number one, I'm not one of them. Number two, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know one of them. I kind of feel bad, if they really did believe that because I mean, it's
Right.
not a thing, you know? Oh, and I do see something in the chat actually, from All Around. Psychic vampires are bad news. They are. And there are a lot of people that are awakened and non-awake about being a psychic vampire. So, there are people that are just so negative and they feed off of that negativity, and it's definitely important to, and again, going back with the Reiki, it's so important to know how to energetically protect yourself. Know how to cut those cords, know how to put up those energetic protections and everything. So, yeah, definitely you've got to watch out for that.
Yeah, I find that like in psychology, they would be called people who have behavior disorders, personality disorders, they, whatever,
Mhm.
or they, maybe they have depression. But one of the thing I do with people who are extremely negative or abusive or anything crazy like that is once you actually know yourself and you can just be calm
Mhm.
and you're right, and you just learn that who cares if you you just put up the thing. You're like, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that. I'm not. You just, if you don't respond to it as bad, it's hard for them to make you participate, and they're crazy because a lot of those people, what all they're doing is they're stirring up and making chaos, trying to draw people in because they've learned some sort of game. That's how they get their energy. They've learned some sort of game to play
Right.
to get people riled up, and they get satisfaction off of it. And you've got to almost be ground it and keep your calm and be really calm and
Oh,
just
yeah.
not partake. And it can be hard because
Mhm.
when you're surrounded by a bunch of people, it can get confused of who's doing
Mhm.
what, and you've got to be really on your toes. And if you're just calm, you just don't get pulled in, and that comes with age and experience sometimes.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
It's
No,
yeah.
and you definitely by the end of the day, just imagine, because we go through life and we do get energetic cords that attach themselves to us. So you just wanna make sure that, at the end of the day, you just imagine those cords and you can just cut them out of your aura and let them fall away, and know that, there is no more tie to that negative person. They can't take your energy anymore. It is done, it is gone, it is over with. And that is definitely something that is important. And I did see that somebody asked me.
Is that a Robert doll
Yes.
behind Anne?
Yes. This is my Robert doll,
Oh
and he
my
actually
gosh.
came from the East Martello Museum. I really hope that one day I actually get to go to Florida and see the real
Mhm.
Robert. Definitely would have that be a big caravan thing for sure.
Yep. Oh, people are highly recommending that you check out Dark Shadows.
I will. I will.
You'll love Barnabas doesn't come in till like about, I don't know, episode 400 or something like that.
Oh
But
wow.
I mean,
Okay.
so the first it's slow. It's slow moving at first. So like if you speed up to his episode,
Mhm.
he's pretty, it's pretty Shakespearean, if I might
Mm.
say. Everyone's like, "Oh, Jonathan Frid was Canadian." Yes, he was. Somebody's saying that. They know I'm
Nice.
Canadian, so Jonathan Frid was Canadian. Okay,
Mm.
so now I wanted to talk about cults, and I don't know if you know
Mhm.
anything about any kind of vampire cults, or because this my podcast usually we talk about cults. I find the whole
Mm.
phenomenon of vampires pretty docile and harmless. Like
Mhm.
if the most people are doing is they just want to have some aesthetics and they like the style and they just really connect with the philosophy, I find that pretty harmless. But I'm not
Mhm.
sure if you know any groups that were, a little more malicious. I
No,
can't think of it.
I don't know of any personally. I've never heard of any. I mean, gosh, from, trying to think about it, from when I was 15 and very first started hearing about the vampire culture or the underground vampire subculture and all that kind of thing. I personally never heard about any group that was evil, malicious, or doing negative, bad things, and even being a part of everything now. I don't know of anything.
Oops, that's the wrong one. This was the one that I wanted to bring up. Matthew is asking, "Are you familiar with Buffy the Vampire Slayer and its spin-off Angel?" Everybody likes the
Yes,
movies.
yes,
They
I
want to know.
yeah, I watched all of that, that's for sure.
Um, I watched the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. I wasn't really
Mhm,
into the TV show. I was really busy, but I did watch the movie with Christy Swanson in it. So I
mhm.
didn't find. Oh, Cal wants to know what your favorite campy vampire movie. What's your favorite campy vampire movie?
Campy
Hmm.
vampire? What's campy?
Like camp is sort of a style of film. It's like I don't know. It's like it would be something like a Roger Corman film. Like um there are a lot of camp films in the 60s and stuff like The Mask of the Red Death. Would that be campy? It's give me a definition of campy, guys, so we can it's hard for me to explain
See,
cuz it
it's it's one of those things where, my dad, I was raised by my grandparents and my dad, and my dad was a big
Mhm.
movie watcher. So, the movies that I grew up watching, as well as not, he had the TV and it was his say what we watched. So, I grew up with, like, you had Swamp Thing, Blob,
Mhm.
Critters,
Yeah.
Gremlins, yes, the vampire the Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel and, and then he'd watch, like, Die Hard and the Top Gun and all of that kind of thing. So, I was at the mercy of him and what he watched, and then when I wasn't watching TV with my dad, I was writing. And then,
Right.
as soon as I was, 20, I became a mom, and then for that next 10 years, I was a stay-at-home mom, I was homeschooling, and,
Mhm.
so then, you've got your Winnie the Pooh and all
Oh,
that kind of thing,
yeah.
so I didn't
I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
not
my
a lot
son's here,
to
he can hear me, I'm not gonna tell you what I used to have to watch all the time. So, yeah, campy
Right.
is this is a good one. It's a style, it's absurdly exaggerated, artificial, in a usually in a humorous way,
Mm.
like, it's over the top. It's totally exaggerated, it's like a vampire film, like, it would be like Blacula, or a film like
Oh,
that, which is
yeah.
like and it's all, like, way o over the top, or there's so many of them in the '60s and '70s, it's hard to sort them all out. Yeah.
Right. I remember hearing about Blacula, and those were definite ones that my dad was not into. So I didn't watch anything like that.
Yeah, it was kinda like the blaxploitation kind of films where you had like, all these films that it would just turn it into that version.
Mhm.
Like, I know a lot of Roger Corman films were very campy. They would or
Mm.
Ed Wood, very campy, like, they would go, like, right over the top, and it would almost be silly, but the
Right.
style would, like, lure you in the acting. I guess you
Mm.
I don't know if you could I wouldn't call Dark Shadows necessarily campy, I guess it could be. The funniest thing about Dark Shadows is they used to like, the producer was really cheap, and they would have to film it straight on, like, they couldn't stop. They were doing it live before an audience, and it didn't matter if
Oh,
they made a mistake,
wow.
they had to keep going. So some of the funniest
Ooh.
stuff, the best things is the mistakes, or, like, they'll open the coffin and they'll show Barnabas staked and he's dead, but you can see his
Mhm.
clearly see him
Oh.
breathing, like, it's all these spoofs, or, like, they go to do something and something falls, and they have to keep going, or they
Oh.
forget their lines, and it shows you how good of actors they were because they just had to keep
Right.
going. It was like you were seeing them live on a stage, and they didn't stop. So they didn't have all this
Wow.
editing or anything like that, so part of the fun to watch that is when you catch the bloopers.
Oh, wow. Yeah, see, I would never that was one of my things that I was always nervous of when it came to doing my podcast, and especially doing things live because I have a habit of laughing. And I always knew that I could never be an actress or anything because they'd constantly have to redo the scene because I'd be, trying to be super serious and then I would just lose it. And so, I mean, and of course, you have those moments where it's like, don't laugh, don't laugh. And then you just bust up. So, yeah, that would be great to see.
So Y I wanna get because we were talking about Satanic Panic before we even came on, and I was mentioning because I
Mhm.
mentioned cults, I was mentioning that, Rod Farrell guy in '96, he was into vampires, and he went out and killed his friend's 2 parents in this mass murder with his
Mm.
friends in the name of being a vampire, and it was this whole kind of crazy, thing going on in Satanic Panic. For you, does vampirism have that I'm gonna see how to best phrase this. Does the vampire lifestyle is it like have this kind of controversial context for you where you're embracing it in a way as a juxtaposition to the normalcy in society? Like almost like Anton LaVey does Satanism, he does it as a controversial
Mm.
other. Does it have that context for you, or is it like because some people like I when I was young, I wanted it because it was the opposite of what society was telling you to do. It was like a
Mm.
controversial statement.
I see. Yeah, no. So for me, I feel that the vampire lifestyle kind of puts me in touch with the ways of old, So in the book The Black Veils that Father Sebastian wrote, he has there are different words of like empowering words. So you have courtesy, you have gentleman, you have chivalry. And one of the practices is, I will curtsy when I see someone, instead of doing the whole modern hugging and shaking hands. You have those old world, the old manners and the elegance that used to be. So for me, being a part of this community, puts me in touch with the older ways, the elegance, the sophistication, the beauty.
Mhm. Like the tradition, yeah, and
So
I think that's interesting because it's like a tie to history.
Mhm.
When it's because especially like us, when we're in North America, a lot of us come from immigrant families who have come over here over the
Mhm.
years, and we don't necessarily have a place to go to look at our ancestors if we've moved.
Right.
We don't have that tie that a lot of people from the old world might have. So it's
Right.
interesting, like it's like that you're saying that it's a tie to etiquette. It's almost like a
Mhm.
better time. I mean, there are things to criticize about the past, there are hardships about the past, but
Right.
there's like you're saying, it's like it's too bad we couldn't have some of that today mixed with our
Mhm.
modern technology, and
Mm.
right, like instead of going to the
Yeah.
grocery store in your pajamas, go with a frock. Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, no, exactly. I mean, the way that I mean, gosh, I love to dress up like I am tonight, and uh I feel that, there's a poetry that we have been disconnected from for a long time. And for me, this reconnects that for me.
That's excellent. And do you have any procedures or practices, like any kind of ritual things, or like that speaks to you about vampires? Like some people, I don't know, they might light candles, they might have a ritual. Some people have like paganism's on the rise. Some people do that
Mhm.
as now, but is there like a kind of religious vampire procedure or anything spiritual? I mean, you don't have to detail it in specific if it's really personal.
For me, gosh, I I'm spiritual. But I love to study so many different things. For a while I was looking into the Golden Dawn. And then I've reached your voodoo and your hoodoo and your kitchen witchery and everything. So for me personally, I just kind of I guess people have kind of used the term chaos magician in regards to me because
Mhm.
I don't follow any straight and narrow anything. I just kind of go with what I'm intuitionally called to do.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think personally myself, I think a reason a lot of people are going to these alternative kind of religions is that the currently there's really not anything that's providing a spiritual thing for people, and people are they obviously the
Mhm.
families are disjointed. I think there's something missing in people's lives, whether they can't get relationships or they're just disconnected from people or they're just work 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 work. And I know I'm not saying there's a god up in the clouds or watching us. I'm not saying that, but it's almost like people are looking for something that's deeper than just go to work, eat, sleep, go to work, eat, sleep. And a
I
lot of
agree.
people don't trust the Catholic Church for whatever reason, and they're going to
Mhm.
paganism. But a lot of what's in vampires is attached to the church as well, though. So it's almost like people are creating their own subculture, their own place where they can
Right.
have that deeper connection.
Right. Right. And I do feel that there has been, I mean, just from watching, especially with the development of technology and having computers and being able to connect with people that are more like you. Because I remember before I ever had my home computer, I felt pretty disconnected. I wanted to learn more about meditation, and I wanted to connect with more people about experiencing some of this weird paranormal stuff that I experienced. And that slowly began to happen, but once I found the podcasting world, once I found this paranormal community, I mean, things just really took off, and there was a lot of healing involved in that, and, being able to have that connection, you kind of, you begin to feel whole, and I think that, that's important for all of us.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like the little missing piece in your life. Like you were always taught to believe like, okay, well, you just go out and achieve all your goals and you get married or you do this and you make
Right,
money and that'll be it. And I don't know, I guess maybe if you're a sociopath, that might be good, or a psychopath, that might be enough. But for a lot of people, it's just like there's always something missing. And so it's interesting
right.
that these subcultures are showing up. Uh, and I think it's always been like that. Especially the world's getting scary. I mean, it's getting global, where we almost feel like we're going to
Right.
get lost in this big world of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Corporations are massive. It's almost, I think it's also a comfort thing to have this little place where you can feel like you're protected and there's a deeper meaning and connection.
Oh yeah, no, it's true. I mean, and I have seen that where the more connected we are, the more disconnected we have become. So it's really important to be able to focusing pieces into, I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot to that.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we're more connected, but there's this irony. We're more connected, but yet we're using that to right now even
Mhm.
create this little place, but it's smaller. We're not
Right.
making money. We're not, we're not Joe
Mhm.
Rogan. We're not entertaining. We're niche. It's something small, and hopefully we don't. I won't be turning this podcast into a cult and where people worship me.
Right.
I would be abhorred if people started worshiping me. I'd be like, oh god damn, don't do that. I'm the worst, but do
Oh,
not
yeah.
worship me. I'm gonna
Yeah,
mess you
nope.
up. No, I'm kidding. No, well, it's healthy boundaries. It's like you do something, you have
Right.
a conversation, you have a boundary, and people don't enter your private life. It's like that's what you've got to do. If we
Mhm.
were crazy cult leaders, you'd be luring people into your secret, for money. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's well, let's just. I've had guests on where we've talked about this stuff, like the COVID, the coronavirus. I'm
Mhm.
not good. I don't want to get into is it real, blah, blah. I don't want to get into politics because we'll get booted off of YouTube. But did you find that changed things for you? And that it changed your podcast, or that it provided you like the vampire subculture sort of helped you through?
Yeah, I feel it's an interesting question to answer because I feel bad for my answer a little bit, but I mean, I've talked to other people that had the same experience, and that's that the COVID year actually provided a lot of us with a lot of opportunities that we didn't have before. And it was for some of us, it was our best year that we had had. I know for me, it put me in touch with the vampire culture. It put me in touch with so many people. I mean, I have found healing through them. I have found some people that are going to be friends for the rest of my life and healing and just I mean, and then again too, like I was a dental assistant and I switched from being a dental assistant to doing this full time. So I was like, you know what? My entire family, everybody was business owners but me. I was still working under someone. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. I am going to take KPNL and I'm going to take the caravan and I'm going to treat it like a full-time job and this is what I'm going to do. And I have and it's I mean it's been incredible how things have grown. So, I mean,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you can make that happen. That's fantastic. And
Yeah.
you're just solely doing the podcasting, and it's providing.
Yeah, no, just the podcasting and the radio station. I mean, it's been there's so many things. I mean, gosh, it seems small, but one of the things that I
Mhm.
always wanted to do, and I talked about it in my show years ago, was I wanted to see a firefly because I thought that fireflies were like this little bit of true magic that it's real magic in the world, and I never thought that I would travel. Um, I never thought that I would, leave Oregon, and I never thought I'd get to see a firefly or anything like that, but, this year, actually, in August, it happened, and it was all thanks to being a part of the paranormal podcasting community.
Wow, that's excellent. That's awesome. That's amazing. Um, I I used to do like I've done a different couple of different podcasts, and I haven't invested the time into this. I'd like to be busy this, busy that, but I used to do one called The Secret Door, and it was interesting
Ooh.
conversation. I've delved into a lot with cults and stuff because I am really fascinated by psychology and personality
Mm.
disorders and breaking stuff down. I'm very analytical. There's an artsy side, but I'm also very analytical. So, and if Cal, me and Cal come aboard when it'll be completely different format, but it'll be interesting to see where it goes because we have two very different kind of feels, but yet we get
Mhm.
along and we do similar things too. So yeah, I think it's fantastic where you can go and do it online and the opportunity you have, even though we sometimes feel disconnected by social media yet.
Right, right. Very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a comment here. Oh, okay. So Matthew is writing. It is interesting how vampires have so many symbolic aspects to their appeal for different people, from the world weary outsider to immortality, heightened powers that come with a great price.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely. You can ask me whatever you want. Yeah.
If you had the opportunity to really choose to be a vampire, one's like the traditional one is standing right in front of you, would you do it?
Hmm. No, I don't think I would now.
Yeah.
If you had asked me when I was 20, I would have said yes, but
Right.
right now I don't think. I think I'm really happy right now. I'm really happy. If a vampire stood up here, I'd be like, no. I would
Yeah.
accept that my fate was to die, and it's okay.
Mm.
I think
Right.
10 or 20 years ago, I might be like, hell yeah, but I think I'm happier now. If that I don't know. I'm
Oh,
happy with how it is. So if I had to
right.
be a vampire, I'd have to give up the way everything is. Possibly, I couldn't I
Mm.
couldn't have
That's
Cal as
true.
my boyfriend. I'd be like, nah, I'll pass. But like when I was
Mm.
really young, I would have been like, yeah, yeah. And for me, I mean, you know, vampirism and Dracula and stuff like that was like when you're like 15 or something. It's a form of sexuality expressing it when maybe you're not necessarily so
That's true.
comfortable with it. So that's what for me probably what it was as a teenager. And
Right.
it doesn't serve that purpose now. I like it for fun and entertainment and style and camp, but I think that's was the initial thing with Bram Stoker's Dracula. And I like the idea of the fallen
Mhm.
angel. That I
Oh,
like
yeah.
that motive that he was this
Right.
great man and he fell from grace and he became this abhorred evil thing and you know,
Right.
that's how it
Yeah, no,
goes.
that's true. That's true.
I kind of like that,
Oh,
but I don't think they would. No.
right.
It
There's
was a good
a
question.
comment. Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Well, I'm always so
Mhm.
interested in people's answers.
Mhm.
One thing that to address is there is, somebody that spelled vampire with a Y, and I love that
Mhm.
because we're definitely, so vampire with an I is more for your, your movies and your TV shows and, that kind of vampire. But vampire with a Y is more, with what I am a part of. It's the spiritual, the energetic and everything. So it's your living human vampire. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I actually read that. I was looking at stuff, but and I read the variations, but I didn't know the difference. So it's like a film versus the sort of lifestyle.
Mhm.
That's the different. Lestat type yes. Oh, so somebody's doing a contest. They want to know Lestat type yes, Dracula yes, Barnabas no. What? I don't know what that means. I like all of them and all those vampires for different reasons.
Mhm.
Lestat was pompous and he had this thing, but there was like when you get into the second book, there's deep you start understanding why Lestat was the way he was. Dracula, I mean, he's just the perfect metaphor. And Barnabas again, a cursed vampire. Cursed and
Right.
yeah, he's cursed. He was cursed to the vampire. The whole backstory is he's basically this guy who has to deal with a life that he doesn't want, and you have this compassion for him. And the whole show is about him going after Josette, his true love that he lost. It started with him, and you
Mm.
got to go check it out.
Right. Yeah, no, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely I will.
So Matthew Lee, he's saying, and Matthew writes books on languages and stuff. Sometimes vampire was spelt with a W in Eastern Europe languages, as in vampire, vampire.
Very
Yes,
interesting. Very cool.
yes. Oh God, Cal. Cal wants to know what we thought of Andy Warhol's Dracula. I hate that Dracula. It's
Yeah,
gross.
no.
You didn't watch
You know,
like go ahead.
well, speaking of the more gross, if you will, vampires, I was really surprised with the vampires in I was new. I never heard of I haven't watched Supernatural, so I started late. And the vampires that had all the teeth coming out everywhere, tons of, and it was just like, wow, that's gross.
Do you think some of the stuff that they do now is overkill? Like I can't connect with some of that kind of stuff. It's too much. It's overkill. It loses what the attraction was for me.
It
Like
loses
when
it
their
for me
teeth.
as
Yeah.
well. Right, exactly. But
Hmm.
they're probably also trying to bring it back or bring it in a new way, present it in a
Hmm.
way that, because they're probably thinking, well, Dracula has been done, overdone for so long that, let's throw a
You
curveball in
know,
here.
if they released like old movie kind of matinee or whatever, and they had like this reel of old Dracula vampire flicks or from whatever and for
Mhm.
around Hollywood, I would be there. They could
Yeah,
make money
yeah.
off of me. They don't always have to remake it. They can literally do
Oh, yeah.
midnight movie things. I don't know. Oh, here's a good
Mhm.
one. And Andy Warhol's Dracula, I don't know if you can consider that camp. I'm going to answer my opinion on that. It was like ridiculous, him running around with no arms at the end. And it had that European where the storyline just, I was like, what's going on? It was, I just couldn't get with it. I didn't even know what was going on half the time. Matthew Lee Ambleton wants to know what you think about them remaking Lost Boys, and what do you think about the original Lost Boys? Have you
So
seen it?
I love, yes, that one I have seen. I love the original Lost Boys. And that made me think too of Fright Night. I love both of the Fright Nights. And as for the remake, I wasn't aware of that. I don't keep up
They're
with.
planning it.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, you know, let's just see. You never know. You
yeah.
you just you never know. I mean, and if it's bad, then don't watch it. I don't know.
I mean, I was what? So I would have been about 10, and me and my
Mhm.
cousin, we sat there looking at Bop magazine. We were so excited about this film, but we weren't allowed to go see it in theater because we were too young. So
Mm,
it went
mhm,
in theater, and we waited for it to come out on VHS. And I mean, we absolutely loved
mhm.
it. It had the soundtrack. I mean, it was the movie of the day. And I just,
Yeah.
even when I watch it now, I'm like, God damn, this is a good vampire movie. Even
Yes.
though it was a little graphic, but they didn't
Mm,
show everything until that one scene, and it was still not
right.
overdone. It was
Right.
still, they didn't overkill it, like 500 sets of teeth didn't fly out of their faces,
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
Mm.
I
And they were
agree.
cool.
They were. Oh, they were.
Oh, Hippie here likes the saxophone player.
Mm.
You know, the shirtless saxophone player. That's good. That's
Yep.
good. That's funny. Yeah, it's a great movie, but they're remaking it. I seen the cast, some of the people that they think are going to be in it, and I'm like, wait and see. But I don't have
Mm,
faith that it will be that good.
right.
I don't have faith. I've seen a lot of remakes lately, and I'm like, okay, I guess they want to update it for the modern audience, but it's like, go watch the original one. It's really good.
Right. No, I do.
All right. Now, we're coming up on the hour. I don't want to keep Anne too much longer, maybe a few, 10 more minutes. Let me know, guys, if you guys have any questions at all for Anne to answer. Um, I want you to just repeat the name of your podcast and where people can find you, or do you have a website or anything like that,
Yeah, yeah.
Anne?
So the Caravan Library of Lore, you can Google that, and also you can just type in Caravan of Lore on, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Um, Same with KPNL, KPNL Radio. You can just type in kpnl-db.com for the website. We're also on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And right now, I am in the season for the Caravan. So I'm releasing every Tuesday until January. And then January through September, I just release one episode a month, and I call it my full moon episode.
Excellent. That's amazing. And somebody wants to know if you'll marry him. That's a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. We don't
so
know
sweet.
each other.
You can just say no. I'm always like, nah, I'm not going to marry you.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so do you have any last comments that's important to you, a concept about the vampire that is very important to your life that I've missed, or something that you wanted to say or get out there about vampires that are important to either society, your life, or whatever? Because I miss lots.
Well, I would say that interested in vampires and the vampire culture and everything, definitely check out, like, Google Father Sebastian. Look at what he's done. Check out the Black Veils. Look at his websites. Go to vamporium.shop. I think fathersebastian.com. There he just came out with as well a vampire magazine. So definitely just Google those, and all of the information is right there at your fingertips.
Now, one more question. Is there anything that people should be wary about? Is there any warnings when dealing with different things online? Any bad experiences that you have, that, because it's the whole wide world web, young people might go out there looking for vampire stuff. Is there any warnings or any advice you'd give them to avoid bad things? Let's just put it that way. Whether it be a cult leader or people stalking them or abuse or frauds or whatever. Have you encountered any of that, or would you give any advice? Because it's good, but I always know in every kind of subculture you can come into somebody that is a predator. It's real. It's
Right.
true.
Honestly, for me personally, I have never experienced anything like that. But at the same time, I tend to be an introvert. I'm very shy. So I do keep my circle pretty small. I would just say, do your research. Be smart. Don't just trust anybody that you meet. Gosh, just do your research and trust your intuition, and
I would always warn people when you're going out there, because I study cults and talk about them a lot. The first signs of somebody who's either a cult leader, a predator, or someone who's not being honest is flattery. They will always engage you and flatter you. And, if you're having a bad day or you have some low self-esteem or you're going through a hard time in your life, you might be looking for a vampire subculture and you might not be feeling good and you're looking for that to help you out. I would say if anyone's over flattering you or trying to feed you stuff that seems like, and even though it feels good, I would say keep your distance from that person and don't move fast. And if they're trying to get you to go to a group or anything like that, be wary, because flattery and then love bombing, which is where they totally make you feel amazing, those are the first signs.
Yes.
That's what abusive people do. That's what cults do. So be wary of people who are very flattering to you and charming, and just make sure that you just don't get overly involved with them really quickly.
Yes, I agree. Very good. Very good advice, for sure.
All right. We're going to sign out. I'm just going to show this one comment and we'll wrap it up. Barnabas was cursed because he treated Angelique bad. He used her as a booty call, and she wanted to get serious with him, and she wanted to be married to him. So after he used her and discarded her, she cursed him, and that's how he became a vampire.
Oh, wow. All right.
Oh, yeah. That's funny. All right. Well, everybody, I want to thank you guys for stopping on the show. Obviously, we didn't get to any deeper realms, but you could probably find that on Anne's radio show that she talked about, and I'll go get the links. I'll put them in the updated show notes or whatever so people can check it out. I'm going to go check it out. And thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you. It was an honor to be here. Thank you so much. This was great.
That's right. Yeah, and you know what? If you want to come back in the future, go ahead. Or if you need anybody to come on your show and you want to
Oh,
discuss
thank
it,
you.
and you're running out for a guest, don't hesitate to send me a message.
Yeah, no, of course, we'll definitely be in touch.
All right. Let's end this one out. Everybody have a great night. And we got 2 podcasts coming up pretty quickly. I'm going to have Damon Blalak. He is going to be on the show. He's been a friend for a while. He's a film director out of Oklahoma. He's also I believe he's doing his master's out of Ireland somewhere. He's a film director, loves Dracula, and he's going to be coming on talking about film and Dracula, specifically the 1992 Bram Stoker's Dracula version. And he is coming on the 20th. That's a full moon, guys. And on the 23rd, I have Anthony Tyler coming on, and he's going to be talking about his new book. And mostly, we're going to be talking about demons and the brain and mental health problems, because that's an area that I like to talk about, is psychology. So the 20th, Damon Blalak. The 23rd, it's Anthony Tyler. So 2 of those. And I have no idea what I'm going to be doing on the week of Halloween. I've just took in a new job position, so I'm going to be training and really busy. I have the 31st off, but I highly doubt anybody is going to be spending time streaming on Halloween, but we'll see. I have no idea. Maybe I'll do a show or do a pre-recorded about Dark Shadows for all you Dark Shadows fans. But thank you guys for joining me. And remember, thumbs up, subscribe, like the show, and we will talk to you again 20th and the 23rd of October.